Welcome to the Cincy PostCast. I'm your host, Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Streetside Brewery, a fantastic local Cincinnati brewery, one of my favorites, and believe me, I've tried them all here in Cincinnati. Their location in Columbia Tusculum is top notch. One of my favorite places to go out and catch a game. We are so excited that they've been partnering with us this season, and I am excited to tell you about their Speak of the Devil Day celebration happening on April 13th. This is a huge event for Streetside, and I want anybody and everybody to get out there releasing Speak of the Devil. They will be open at 10 a.m. They have Craft Burger Bros slinging some breakfast starting at 8 a.m. The Dead Man String Band will be there from 10 to 1. And if you purchase a full allotment of Speak of the Devil, they even have devil-themed chocolate truffles from Ruby's Chocolates. This is a cool event. They do it every single year. Check them out. Again, that is Saturday morning, April 13th. It's a fantastic place. Go check it out. And yeah, next time you're looking for a place to watch an away game, or you're looking for a beer in your local beer fridge, grab Streetside Brewery. You will not be disappointed. And on today's episode, we've got a little bit of a different one for you. In part one, we are joined by FC Cincinnati starting goalkeeper, Evan Louro. So happy to have him back on here. If you've been listening to the podcast for the last season, at least, you know that we've brought in Evan regularly as our vibes guy, and he got his first MLS start this past weekend. It didn't quite go the way we all wanted it to, but it was really fun to talk to Evan after the fact. Then in part two, the Chief and I, there is no Grayson on this episode, so feel free to skip if you're a Grayson stan out there. But Chief and I talk about this game, what it means about this season, picking up the first loss, and then in part three, we cover a couple of FC Cincinnati news and rumor items, and then wrap it all up with a classic in the 11 out of the 18. Put it all together, you got yourselves a hearty helping of PostCast. Oh, and to talk about all of that and more, starting us off in part one of the show, I am joined by the Chief, but we are joined by FC Cincinnati starting goalkeeper, Evan Louro, hot off of the start against the New York Red Bulls with the saved penalty. Evan, how are you doing this evening, my man?
Doing all right. I'm doing all right. How you guys doing?
We're doing okay. Look, I'll be honest. It's a loss. We all understand that. We all can appreciate that for a moment. And then we'll just move right on, okay? This was your first start in MLS. You've been our vibes guy through the past season or so. We've been super happy to have you on. I was just telling you, it's been so invested in your career, and I got the inkling that you might be starting this game when the Roman injury news came out. But I'm curious, when did you know you were going to be starting?
I found out on Thursday, like for sure. Obviously with Roman going down, Alec and I knew one of us was going to go in. So, we both trained as if we were both going to play, and Pat told us on Thursday that, they were gonna give me the chance, and kind of roller coaster started from there.
So when you find something like this out, is it the first call to parents, friends, family? How does that work out in terms of, like, you at least had some lead time to get everyone into town, which is kind of nice, I guess, right?
I had the opportunity. I told my wife, and that is it. That's the only person I told. I didn't tell my parents. She ended up telling my parents. I didn't tell my agent. I didn't tell anybody. Because I didn't want to, I don't know, mess anything up.
Yeah.
But yeah, she told my parents, and they were able to come down. So that was cool.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's got to feel great.
I can also confirm that Kevin is being 100% accurate. I was with him before the game. We were at a watering hole right around the corner from the stadium, and when the team news dropped, he yelled out to the entire bar, "Evan is starting," with his hands over his head.
Good banter.
Look, I was feeling things out. I was seeing how the two team was doing. The Roman news came out. I was like, I think Evan's got a real shot at this. This will be great. No, so what changes for your preparation from Thursday on, knowing that you're the starter? Like what is different for you?
Honestly, in I guess a normal case scenario, which I wouldn't really classify this as normal. Mm-hmm. I've waited 8 years for this. So it was a little different. I just try to keep doing everything the same, but I mean, if I'm not going to sit here and say I wasn't nervous. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I was extremely nervous. But a good kind of nervous, not nervous that I was like going to not do well or anything like that. It was just so much built into it. Like I said, think of waiting 8 years and then finally getting the chance to do what you've worked your whole life to do.
Yeah.
And it was just like a surreal moment. And I was like, honestly, like I told myself, like, obviously I want to do well. I couldn't care less how I do. I just want to get through it. So I had this like 20-pound weight like on my shoulders for so long that I never made an MLS appearance. And now that I have, I can just relax.
Yeah.
And not worry about that. You know what I mean?
So were your teammates trying to do anything to try and keep you calm, keep you down, try and, do anything to like lift the weights off the shoulders that as we got closer to match day?
I think I played it off really well. I don't think anyone thought I was nervous until I just like came home and I was just like sitting here. I must have watched every Red Bull game this year. Even my wife's like, you should watch some more. So yeah, I think when I was around it, because I don't want to make anybody else nervous. So I was just like acting my normal self, no problem, whatever. But like I would be lying if I said I wasn't nervous.
I can only imagine. And then of course you're making your debut. You're making the start against your former team, the club that shaped you as a goalkeeper, as it were. Anything extra special with going up against the Red Bulls for your first start?
I kind of just chuckled. I was like, of course, like,
right.
I still got, obviously I was there for so long and, I got a lot of good buddies on that team. Obviously it was unfortunate. I wish we got something out of the game. But we'll just move on and pick up the pieces and go from here. But yeah, it was kind of funny. I had a couple of them texting me like throughout the week, like, "Yo, are you playing?" Or and I was like, "Oh, man, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't know, man." And even the kit man on the other team who I've known since I was like 13, he was like texting me before the game because I guess he got the team news before they release it, and he was like, he just sent me like a crying heart emoji, like let's go. Like they were all super happy for me and stuff like that. So it was cool.
Oh man.
And so when you get to match day itself and you go into the locker room, your kit's set up there. You did the Kroger bag thing with Roman, which I thought it was hilarious. That was very well done on that. Sitting in the locker room before you go out, what's that feeling like, making your first appearance? Like you said, you'd waited 8 years for this. That last minute before you hit the field, what's going through your head?
A lot was going through my head. A lot of emotion, a lot of, thinking about my journey up until this point, all the ups, all the downs. I kind of like was chuckling to myself as I was like running out. I was like, who would have thought, like 2 years ago, where I'd be in Cincinnati making an MLS appearance when I thought, that ship kind of sailed. But yeah, it was cool. It was cool. I don't know if anybody like saw it or anything, but like maybe 5 seconds before the first whistle, I was just laughing. I was like kneeling down, like in the goal, like right before we started. I was just laughing. I was like,
I thought you were saying like a prayer or something like that.
No, I was laughing. I was just straight up giggling.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, Chief highlighted this one before we hit record for me. But apparently the announcers referred to you as the youngster making your debut. So how does that make you feel?
Yeah, no, I'm young. Yep, got it. Cool.
It's the youthful exuberance, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Goalkeepers are always a little different. Maybe 28 is young.
All right. I'm 28. I'm not 38.
Right.
So.
When do you lose the youngster tag though? When can we drop that for you?
Once you get a 3. Once you get a 3 in the front.
Yeah.
You're fair. Seasoned then at that point. You're a seasoned veteran. And then once you get the 4, you're the grizzled veteran, I think is how it works out.
Right.
Grow a little beard,
Yeah. A little stubble there. So when the game starts, everything, starts happening. Do you want to face a shot early on just to get into it? Or were you very,
No, I was like, I told Matt, I was like, whenever you get it, first time you get it, just give me the ball. I was like, give me the ball. I'm just going to wang it as far as I can. Because I just need to touch it and it not be like the first thing I do is like, if they score, I don't want to be picking the ball out of the goal. It's the first thing I do. And I think Kip actually laid it off to me and I just sent it. But yeah, no, I was fortunate to get a couple of shots and, a couple difficult ones. And, I did what I had to do, I guess. Tried my best and stuff like that. I definitely think I was nervous and stuff like that. I don't think I'll ever feel like that again. Like I said, it's just like weights off my shoulders kind of thing. Like, if and when another game comes, I can just actually focus on playing and not have, people sorry, my son has a little thing on the window and it fell off. That was that nice. People like weirdly taking more pictures of me than normal, stuff like that. And not being like the center of attention. Cause I know it seems like I like that, but I don't really, and I can just focus on playing. So yeah, it was good. Like I said, good to get the first one and move on.
Yeah.
Did you get the debut patch on your kit?
Yeah, right.
Yep. But they have to send it away though. I didn't get to keep it.
What?
Damn.
Were they reusing the debut patches for other people? They only ordered so many of them?
No, they I think it's with like Tops. It's like a card.
Oh.
So they I guess you send the jersey, like Teddy has to send the jersey to Tops. And they like, I don't know what they do. They take the patch and they put it in a card.
Do you get one of the cards at least?
No, I was like, where can I get it? I was like, I will buy it. I was like, totally fine, but just tell me. And they're like, oh, they just put it in like a random thing. So I'll get the jersey without the patch.
All right, so we gotta go on a mission for this. We gotta find you. We gotta get someone to get one of these cards and get Evan his debut patch back. This is a personal crusade of mine from this point forward. You've been cool to us. Like, this is what I can do for you. I'm going to find one of these goddamn cards.
I was like, I will pay whatever to get this damn patch. It's at least I'll get the jersey back. So
with the little hole, I guess, cut out. That's so weird.
Yeah, it's, I mean, it is what it is. I guess if Suarez has to do it, I guess I could do it.
See, who would have ever thought you would have something in common with Luis Suarez?
Yeah, it's not biting people.
All right, so I gotta ask about end of the first half. There's a penalty call on Matt. Is there like a part of you that's like, you've got to be fucking shitting me? In my first game, we're getting this.
Yeah, I know. It's like, of course it was Matt.
Right. You get even money on a Matt penalty against Red Bull. That's
yeah. I was like, yeah, it's like 1 minute, dude. Come on. And then after I saved it, he ran over. He's like, "You're welcome."
Like he did a favor for you.
I was like, "Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it, man."
Don't ever do it again.
That celebration is so great because the team is so hyped for you, as they should be. But to the point where it felt like people kind of forgot a corner was coming. I really appreciated that scramble of like, oh shit, we still got to do this.
Yeah, no, it was, like I said, everyone was super happy for me, and it was like a cool little thing. I got some cool pictures out of it. But yeah, no, it was cool. It was, you see everyone ran over to me. It was a cool moment that I'll have for forever.
Yeah. And what describe to me facing the penalty though. What goes through your mind in that moment? Okay. You start out with, damn it, Matt, why? And then you've got to get your mentals. Like, is there going to be a VAR check? What's going on with this? Take me through in your first MLS start with a minute to go before you're into the locker room for halftime and you're facing a penalty. Describe it. What how do you get ready for it? What do you do?
Yeah, obviously, the whistle blew and I was like, shit. But I was like looking around and I was like, to be fair, Matt and DeAndre did a good job of trying to waste as much time and make the taker wait as long as possible, because that's a thing. And I'm like looking at things to do, and I was like, all right, I don't want to copy. Like DeAndre just stood in the 18, and he just like the ref's like, DeAndre, you got to move. And he just like didn't acknowledge him. And he just like, it got me like another 10, 15 seconds. And, everyone's arguing is VAR or whatever. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to walk over to the sideline ref. I'm like, hey, are they checking it? Or, I'm just like trying to talk to these guys to like make it any longer, to buy me some more time, maybe ice them.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I mean, when he's, stepped up, obviously we do, film and stuff like that with, all the goalkeepers on penalties. And to be fair, that's not where I was supposed to go.
Nice.
He we made it a point, and he's never gone the same place twice. And, he took a penalty last week against Orlando and he hit it there and he scored. And I was like, you know what? I was going to stand in the middle because he likes to stay and he likes to hit it in the middle every once in a while. And he takes him righty and lefty, which is weird.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. So I was like, of course it's just obviously he's scored like six goals.
You got like the ambidextrous, both feet, never goes the same way twice. There's no scouting report on this. Like, of course,
so
this
I
is
was
the
like,
guy.
I was literally, as he was going up to take it, like I was going to stand in the middle. I'm like, no. And I'm going this way. And it just like, in a second, it just all like happened. And it was, luckily it, I didn't see it hit my hand. I just stuck it out there. And it, went out, and just like the adrenaline rush that I had was like, I've never felt that. Probably will never feel that again. But it was fire, not even gonna lie.
Right. I mean, goalkeepers scored goals occasionally, but this is the equivalent of scoring the goal for the goalkeeper.
100%.
Oh man. So last time we had you on, you were a little ambivalent about the idea of there being an FC Cincinnati New York Red Bull rivalry. Do you care to revisit that after how the playoffs went, how your debut went? Are you on board with this?
I mean, yes and no. I think obviously, they're a good team. We're a good team. I think naturally our paths are always just going to cross, and that kind of, I guess, enables a rivalry. But also me having been on the other side.
Yeah. I
think everyone's kind of Red Bull's rival.
Nobody likes playing them, huh?
Yeah, that's was the mentality that we always had growing up, and you can kind of see every game. It's kind of the same.
Yeah.
And I think this, we do a good job of just kind of taking each game at a time. And obviously the next game is the most important, and we don't really care, who we're playing. Obviously, there's tactical things that we can do for each individual team, but I mean, I don't like circle Red Bull on the calendar and I'm like, oh yeah, I can't wait to play. I couldn't care less. Obviously I want to win every game the same. So
yeah.
Right.
No, that's the professional answer. I'll accept it.
We'll take that. We'll take the polished answer on that. So,
seasoned vet.
Yeah, right.
No, for a youngster that was a really professional answer right there. That's good. This kid's going places right here with that sort of command of the media. So we're a couple games into the season now. Team has been playing pretty well. A lot of good results. It's probably still not where you guys want to be yet, but there are a lot of new faces onto the club. I'm always curious about this, and this has been sort of talked about a little bit. We've talked about on this show. What's the process like of bringing in so many new players from a team that was very successful last year, has expectations to be successful every year now, and integrating all these new faces while simultaneously trying to keep producing good results?
Yeah, I think, it's a balance. I mean, obviously, all the players we lost they were big players for us. It's not like we lost, the lowest guys on the totem pole. We lost arguably one of the best number 9s on this continent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, Alvaro was a huge asset for us, and even Don Badji with all the great work he did. And Junior was a big loss for us, I think, as well. But yeah, obviously, we replaced a lot of those guys with some new guys. And a lot of those guys are from out of MLS. I think it takes foreign guys a while to adjust to, sorry, the style of play, the travel, and all the little nuances that MLS has. Like you said, it's still early. It's not like we're bottom of the table. I know obviously we lost in the last game, and, it's the first loss of the season, but, it's not like, burn the house down and start again kind of thing. It's one game, against a good team. We just weren't on it last night. And, I think this group has a really good habit of responding well. And we got, along with the players we lost, we also kept, some big dogs. So, we gotta lean on those guys, and they'll, help sort it out, and everybody will just keep it pushing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Long season.
Any of the new teammates, anything fun that you want to reveal about any of the new teammates that the fans might not know? Because there's a lot of these guys where we only know a little bit about what we hear when the cameras are on or what the team chooses to release. Anything embarrassing you want to release, or anything interesting or funny you want to release about Pavel, Luca, DeAndre, any of the new cats that have shown up in the last couple of months?
Luca's pretty quiet. He's a really nice dude. So nothing like crazy there. Pavel's good people.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Funny. He's a funny dude. He's still trying to understand some American things, but he's hilarious. He speaks pretty good English, so he understands everything. Yeah, I mean, I've known Corey for a really long time. He was actually my roommate in preseason.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he was my he lived next to me when we were in residency as well. So like we there was a suite. Everyone has their own room in preseason, and there was like a couple suites that had 2 rooms in the suite. So you like basically shared like a common room.
Oh,
and
nice.
everyone obviously wants their own room, and we were the last 2, and I was like, I don't care. Do you care? He's like, nope. So we just like hung out, and we'd have like 30-minute talks every night in our common room, and then all right, it's time to go to bed. we'll retreat to our quarters. But yeah, I think now that I've been here for a little bit, it's, I try to get those guys out of their shell, and Pavel he was pretty closed off at first. He's a younger guy. He's coming to a country he's never been to. But I think it was first or second night he was in Florida. We like brought him out to dinner with us and stuff like that, just to hang out. And we we played who did we play? Austin in preseason. And it was our last game, I think, before we were going home for a couple of days. So they got us like some Chick-fil-A for after the game. And Pavel's like very strict on like how grilled chicken, like potato. And he's never had Chick-fil-A before. So he's like looking around, like, what's going on here? And I hear him and I like pop my head out of the shower. I'm like, this is America, dude. I'm like, you throw some Chick-fil-A sauce on that and you have a day. He didn't really like it that much. I know. But yeah, he's a good dude. We got a good group for sure.
Oh man,
it's really good to hear.
Yeah, that is fantastic to hear. Everybody's excited for this new season, and yeah, I mean, even going into this last game, the team was hanging out in first place. I think we're tied for third now. Not the worst spot to be in for early on in this season. I'm curious if you don't mind for just a moment. There was some discourse on Twitter recently with the USL. I had a game broadcast on CBS. It was Louisville and Indy. I'm curious, how did starting in MLS compare to starting in USL?
It's like another world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, even just like the training, like you can see it in training, I think the best. Mm-hmm. I think it's like not a step. I think it's more than a step up. But luckily, I've been around for, a while. Obviously I was on Red Bull as an MLS player, and then I just did the 2 years in Tampa. And then, obviously came back to MLS. So I knew what I was getting into. Mm-hmm. I think is when you really see it as training. But yeah, it's a big step up. And I think guys that make that jump, it's a lot to be said that, especially if they're successful, it's not easy.
So now that you've started a game at MLS, is anything about you going to change? Like personality? Are you going to, buy a fancy new car, park in the GM spot? Just like, no, I'm a starter. I can do whatever I want now.
I don't think Chris will like that very much. I mean, even, we were in today and go in same time, do the same stuff. I've always been the same, whether I play or whether I don't play. I enjoy playing. You know what I mean? I enjoy what I do. So it's not like, I don't like all that extra shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just not me.
Well, you've been incredibly generous with your time. You have been our vibes guy. We've always leaned on you for vibes. So before we get you out of here, I gotta know vibes of this team. Sure, we're coming off a loss, but how does the season vibes outlook look like right now?
Optimistic.
I like it.
I like that.
Yeah. I mean, we had a meeting this morning. No one's throwing the kitchen sink out the window. You know what I mean? It's, obviously we lost. We got to acknowledge that and we got to work on some stuff, but it's not the end of the world. This group has enough talent and enough like leaders and players that we'll be all right.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, if our vibes guy's not panicking, I'm not panicking. There we go.
There we go.
Oh man. Well, Evan, thank you again so much for coming on after the MLS debut, and someone somewhere will have the card to prove it. So again, thank you so much, man.
We're gonna get that for you.
Yes.
We're gonna now. I have a purpose in life now, and that's to get you your debut patch back.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
And before we get into the next part of the episode, I want to tell you about our other sponsor, Cincy Shirts. And if you're going to sit here and tell me that you've never heard of Cincy Shirts, I'm going to sit here and tell you I don't believe you, because these guys have been with FC Cincinnati from the very beginning. And we here at the Post, well, we are just huge fans of their work. They have tons of really cool FC Cincinnati gear, shirts, hoodies, hats, all sorts of cool stuff. Go over to their website, check out what they are selling. You want to go to cincyshirts.com. That is Cincy with a Y, or you can just click the link in the description of this episode. And when you go there, use the promo code ThePostCincy, all one word, all caps, and they will knock 10% off your next order. They have MLS and MLSPA licensed FCC gear available online or in their 3 retail locations in Hyde Park, Fort Mitchell, or Loveland. And I can attest to this. I've used this before. If they don't have your size on the shelf, they can probably print you one on the spot in the store. So again, huge thank you to Cincy Shirts for sponsoring the podcast, and a huge thank you to you, dear listener, for using that promo code. Oh, and again, a huge thank you to Evan for joining us. Not our usual move here with the guest in part 1.
Yeah, when you get a starting MLS player as like that just came off their debut, yeah, he's going to lead the episode off. That's why make people listen to us and wait for that when he's the clear star attraction right here.
Yeah, and that was awesome. Evan is so great to have on. That was a lovely conversation. And I don't know, Chief. We obviously we're recording this in order, which peek behind the curtain. Do. Yeah. We never do this.
We always tape the guest first and then insert that into the middle. This is actually weird that we're gonna do it this way.
So now that we're in the episode for everybody, how did the conversation with Evan sort of change your, I don't want to say outlook, your perspective on the team, or even how maybe it colored your review? That's the word I'm looking for, of the performance.
I don't know that it does, to be honest with you. So, I guess like to move into pivot to talking about the game, because the Evan portion of this was, spoiler alert. It's Evan has been really cool to us. It's been cool to have him on. It was fun when he was a bench vibes guy, just chill. I'm not really playing, but I'm here to help the team out. And then when he actually plays, I was invested. I mean, I told the story when we were with him just a second ago, but the two of us were at Holiday Spirits before the game. And you yelled out to the bar to announce Evan was starting, and we high-fived. That was awesome. But putting aside that, hearing him talk, what he's saying is right. And it's something where we talked about this in the build up to the season. And that's that we won Shield last year, and you just had to sort of make peace with the idea that this year, with all the players they were replacing Vasquez, Barreal, Moreno, Yerson Mosquera, Dom Baji, who else am I forgetting?
Arias, did we throw him in
Santiago Arias, there we go. You're replacing all of that talent. And we talked about in the offseason that this was going to be more up and down this year than last year's team was.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to say that in the offseason and be like, oh, no, I'm cool. I understand that. I understand it's going to be different. But then when you get in the week to week, then it's like all bets are off. And you know, what the hell is going on? You got this. What the hell is Albright doing? What the hell is Noonan doing? And hearing Evan just say, look, we got a good group of guys. Vibes are good. Vibes are optimistic. I think that what this sort of cemented to me, talking to him, if anything, is that what I thought about anyway, and that's that this team is a work in progress, and this is a team that has things that they need to do better, and I think they know that there are things they need to do better, and I'm sure we'll talk about it in this recap, but it's there's just, and it's annoying as a sports fan, but there's just got to be patience.
Yeah.
There's just got to be at this point.
I mean, even too, looking back at last year, so far this season, FC Cincinnati has scored 7 goals, which, granted, not a lot in 7 weeks. But looking back with last year, this team had only scored 9 goals in 7 games. 3 of those came against Chicago. And I think 2 of those in Chicago came in the final few minutes when Lucha was brought on as a super sub. Not to take anything away from last year or to say that these numbers don't compare, but we're 2 goals behind the pace from last year. And last year, again, if you're like trying to keep track, we lost our first game in week 8. It was a 5-1 domination by St. Louis.
St. Louis. Yeah.
So that sucked. So at least in terms of comparing this year to last year, sure. Would I like 2 more goals on the season? Yeah, obviously. I'd like 19 more. And would I have liked to have lost to New York Red Bulls? Absolutely not. But we are on track. We are on pace with, we're tracking, I should say, with where we were last year. And last year's team was the Supporter Shield winners and came very close to playing in MLS Cup. And, was just a couple of points off of the all-time points record. So, yeah, as much as this sucks and as much as the offense sucks, and I'll throw that out there, it's not good right now. This team is in a 3-way tie for 3rd place with a game in hand on the team technically ahead on tiebreakers. And we're 2 goals behind the pace that we were on last year. I think there's enough generally to be more optimistic than I feel like I'm seeing out there.
I think it's tough to be optimistic. And I think what's hard about it is that you can be optimistic if you're scoring goals.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, you can think, okay, if you are scoring goals, then, we just need to tighten the defense up a little bit and we'll be all right. If you're not scoring goals, it's a little harder, I think, for people to look at look and project forward how things get better. It's like, well, there's no goals coming in.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that there was a little bit in the fan base, and maybe I don't know where it came from. Maybe we were a part of creating it. I don't know where this came from. But this idea that, these new pieces, they're looking so great in the preseason, this team is just going to keep running. And then, they're in first place going into this week's game, and you can start to let yourself think, oh, hell, they might win Supporters Shield again. Yeah. That was always the longest of long shots, like just barely worth considering level of long shots to win Supporters Shield in back-to-back years. But you let yourself think that a little bit. And so I think that this loss is sort of a step back moment for the fan base, but like step back away from the ledge, number one.
Yeah.
But also like a step back of just how difficult it is to remake a roster like they did and expect everything to click. And I think Evan mentioned it. They brought in a lot of guys who had never played in MLS before.
Yep.
Orishano, Bucha for 2 big pieces with guys that really weren't familiar with the league.
Yep.
And then, the other thing too is that everyone says it and it's infuriating every time you hear it. But yeah, it takes guys time to transition to this league and the speed of this league. And their primary striker, who we're going to talk a lot about, I think, he is still less than a year in to his career in MLS. So I don't know. They're doing a rebuild on the fly. I mean, Yedlin has been here for less than a month. I mean, he showed up and was immediately thrown into the starting lineup. And it takes time, I think. I think it especially takes time when you are playing a style that is so heavily dependent on an incredibly creative attacking mid of just like learning where everybody's going to be. and learning how people move. And, you watch the game and you see a pass that Lucho Acosta makes, and it's not good. It doesn't go where it's supposed to go. It's hard to know whose fault that is. It's like when you watch an NFL game and the quarterback throws a football and it's picked off by a defensive back and there's no one in the area. You're like, what the hell did he throw that for? And the answer is, well, there was supposed to be a wide receiver there. Yeah. And the receiver didn't see the same thing pre-snap. So instead of running a slant and go or running, a curl, the receiver breaks his route off to the outside. And then all of a sudden the throw is where the play is designed to go and he's not there and it's going the other way. Lucho is kind of like that. Lucho is kind of like the quarterback of this offense. Yep. And he has an idea in his mind of where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to do. And if I see this as Lucho, then everyone else should see this and they should react accordingly. And when they don't, then he passes the ball and you haven't moved. Like, he expects you to be on the inside of the defender versus the outside of the defender. Yep. The ball goes to the inside. You're not on the inside. It's an easy interception. And we're all looking at Lucho thinking, what the hell are you doing? And really, that's something where that took time for him and Barreal to be good at. And it's not going to happen in the span of weeks.
Yeah. There was a moment halfway through the first half where Orishano and Kubo have that exact moment. Kubo goes to the inside of the defender, cutting towards the box. Orishano plays the ball, thinking he's going to the outside, going to the edge of the box. And it's just like a slight little miscue. And it's Orishano giving up on a promising attack by gently passing the ball to the defender. It looks so stupid, but that with Kubo running at full speed alongside him, if Kubo picks the other side of the defender to go to, then he's able to, pass it back to Orishano and keep the attack going and all of those fun things. And so, it's exactly that. And to make it worse or harder than the NFL, there is no playbook. You don't get to sit there and say, like, all right, we're running this play on this down. Make sure you have read the playbook. It's in the moment, on the fly. Sure. In the modern game, it's very common to practice patterns of play. You want to set up the same series of passes to unlock things. We've talked about the Cincinnati play. It's the same idea. You want to have those patterns, but there's a ton of variation. There's a ton of leeway given. And then you throw in a guy like Lucho, who does see the game at a higher level. And it gets harder. It gets a lot harder to be his teammate.
It's the difference between, having your quarterback be, Lamar Jackson or Tom Brady. They're both great players, but Lamar is going to run off-platform throws. You've got to know where he's going when he's scrambling. Being with a creative player like that, it changes the game. And then also it's like, Evan mentioned it, you're doing all of this, and also the three guys you brought in all speak three different languages.
Yeah, yeah, right.
It's like, wait, what?
Yeah. I'll say it because I'm sure there are some people out there who are just like yelling at it, and I'm sure that person is Grayson. This is ultimately the David Goss theorem of you bring in a guy like Pavel Bucha as a young guy, sure, can speak English just fine, but you bring in a guy like Luka, who's, again, a younger guy, maybe learning English for the first time. It might take a year for these guys to really feel comfortable in MLS, speaking the language, knowing their teammates, knowing their coaches. Like we've talked about this before.
Learning what Chick-fil-A is.
Right. We've talked about this before. Think about in your own career. Would you go move to, I don't know, Italy or, Thailand? You don't speak the language. You're going to work for a brand new boss. Sure, it's the same job, but your coworkers and your boss are going to have very slightly different ways they want you to approach it, or they've recognized some key thing that you do at your job, and they want you to emulate that in another piece of your job that you're not maybe even good at, but they think you'll be good at it. It's very, very difficult to feel settled like that. And again, especially some of these young guys that have been brought over, it's going to take them a little bit to get used to this.
Yeah, it's going to take them a little bit of time, and they have the luxury of time. It's 7 games into this season. It's a 34 game season. They aren't even at the quarter post of the season yet. And the goal is not to win Supporters Shield. I mean, that would be nice if that happens. That'd be neat if that happens. But if that happens, you are talking about this FC Cincinnati team as one of the greatest MLS squads of all time. Like, that's rarefied air for a team to go back to back on Supporters Shield. So cool if it happens, but the goal of this team, and again, I want to take us back to the version of us that was in turn the page to 2024 mode back in January and in February, where we said over and over again, the goal is to be playing at the highest level come October and November in MLS Cup playoffs.
Yes.
And whatever your feelings are about the current state of this team, I think we can all agree this team is not playing its best soccer right now. And that just based on talent and projections, the best soccer for this team is still isn't in the rearview mirror. It's ahead of it when some of these players get more comfortable with one another, with the league. And so as we break this game down and we talk about this game, that's sort of where my headspace is. There are things that I am annoyed with about this team overall.
Yeah.
But my overall impression of the team right now is that they have the ability, and I think they will get better as the year goes on.
Yeah. And I'll even go pull a clip out of our preview episode if people are going to make us put receipts on the table. I'm very confident that we said that this is a team that you can't judge through the first 3 months. I think we even threw down the marker of let's see where this roster and where this team is post Leagues Cup. Like
post summer window.
Yeah, that will tell you what's going on, because remember, the window is still open. There's still rumors floating out there for is it Kevin Kelsey? Is that the name? Yep. Out of Ukraine. But again, there's also the summer window where we might see guys go and we might see additions made.
Where we also are probably going to see the addition of additional U22 spots for this team.
Correct.
That we're operating with one U22 spot vacant. This team could have 2 additional U22 spots in the summer window to buy from.
And that's even just the rumored proposal. They could add more. They could increase the salary cap mid-season. Like, there's all sorts of weird things. And you feel like it's unfair, but I think doing it to start a transfer window for everybody, I mean, is it any different than doing it in the transfer window before? Right. Yeah. Like, it's the same concept. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there weren't changes being made and you don't see the opportunity to bring in a proven striker, let alone a young striker. I think there's a lot to be said about where this team could be. And again, I'll go back to, sure, they give up 2 goals, right? That's rough. That never feels good. If I am looking at this correctly, and there's a very, very good chance I am not, this team has conceded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goals. That is the fewest in the league. Nobody else is on 5 goals conceded. Think about this too. Charlotte has scored 6 goals and conceded 6 goals. So it could always be a little bit worse. Okay.
Right. Like could always be worse. You're right about
that. So yeah, I think this team is well positioned in the sense that the defense is already incredible. We have what looks like 3 starting MLS goalkeepers on this roster. Like, what the heck? Like, incredible stuff. I don't think Evan would be the type to brag about himself, and Grayson can correct me in the Discord when I get this wrong. I'm fairly certain he won the USL Goalkeeper of the Year the last season he got to play a full season
I think with
in
Tampa,
USL.
Right?
Yeah, with the Rowdies. Got injured in the playoffs, didn't get to play in the final, and that's how he ultimately ended up with us. But Yeah, like this is no slouch. Can is a guy that, according to all of the metrics and Chris Albright's original plan, was supposed to be the starting goalkeeper on this team. And yeah, you put the entire United States men's national team defensive pool in front of any one of these capable starters, and it will give our offense time to figure it out. And I'm not going to lie. They got some stuff to figure out.
All right, so let's go through this game then. Let's start with the lineups. You got those in front of you?
I do. The starting lineup, as we said, very exciting. The change there in goal, Evan Louro. Your back line was Kip Keller on the left, Miazga in the middle, Miles Robinson on the right, Luca Orishano as your left wing back, DeAndre Yedlin, still not used to it, as the right wing back, Obi and Bucha. Your defensive midfielders with Lucho Acosta in front of them, Aaron Bupenza starting up top alongside Yuya Kubo. Interesting little wrinkle there. Chief, aside from goalkeeper, the thoughts on the lineup?
The first thought I had on the lineup was seeing Yuya Kubo up top as the striker pair with Aaron Bupenza. And I think it's interesting that, to me, moving Yuya Kubo up top to play him at striker is kind of, I don't want to say it's an admission by Noonan, but it's sort of a sign to me that Noonan is looking for something to kickstart the offense. And what they've done so far hasn't been producing the results that he's looking for. So he was looking for something a little different here. And we've seen Sergio Santos starting up top with Aaron Bupenza. We've seen Corey Baird starting up top with Aaron Bupenza. And now it's okay. We haven't seen the results we like so far from that. Maybe Yuya Kubo. He was a striker at one time in a previous lifetime, which seems like a lifetime. Doesn't it seem like a lifetime ago that they brought Yuya Kubo in as a goal scoring threat?
So he's brought in 2020, if I'm not mistaken.
Him and Jurgen Locadia brought in the same transfer window, if I believe.
The dream strike partnership there. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So if people are not familiar, Yuya Kubo has caps for the Japanese men's national team at striker and attacking winger. Yeah, as the left winger, I want to say. He scored a lot of goals in Europe. He was primarily a goal-threatening player. It was through a combination of Jaap Stam and Jared Nykamp's incompetence, if I may be so bold.
Be so bold. Do be bold, please.
that they did not bring in a defensive midfielder. And when they needed somebody to fill that role, Yuya Kubo was talented enough to put in a shift there. And he got stuck there ever since, basically. And he has kind of turned into a Swiss Army knife for FC Cincinnati.
Which they refer to him on the broadcast as the Swiss Army knife of FC Cincinnati, because of course he is.
Yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, played in Switzerland at one point in his career. So makes sense. Yes, he did. He was on the same team as Joseph Martinez back in the day. And Yuya Kubo outscored him on that team.
People forget.
So I don't
know.
Yeah, that's Kubo's background. So of course he would make sense as a striking option. And 3 minutes in, he scores. It pays out.
Boy, did I have some takes I was ready to fire off about that. That 3 minutes into Kubo getting a return up top, we see a goal produced. Not just a goal off a cross into the box and a header, which I thought had gone extinct for this team. And I'm ready here. I'm over here sitting and I'm ready to say, why hasn't he been playing up top the entire time? How many goals have we missed because Yuya Kubo was being misdeployed? Was the striker we were looking for here the whole time? It's like a Taylor Swift song. And it was great. It was everything I've wanted to see from the FC. It was, I believe it was DeAndre Yedlin just pings a shot in off a pass from Lucho Acosta. there's a deflection that goes back out to Acosta, and then Acosta basically, the only way he could have made the ball any better for Yuya would have been to walk over and throw it at his head from like 2 feet away. It was just a perfectly weighted, judged cross, and all Kubo has to do, he's wide open, just completely unmarked and wide open at the far post. He just nods it home right there as casually as you'd like. And boy, was I feeling good about my prediction we were going to score 3 goals and the offense was going to take off and run.
I mean, you couldn't help but feel super optimistic about this game in that moment. That like, okay, we found our striker. It was here the whole time. The striker next door. And yeah, you score that early. You don't even have an opportunity to get the feeling for how Red Bull is going to play this game. The shalala, feeling it in the Bailey. The Bailey is ready for this, especially Yuya Kubo, everybody's favorite player. It felt good. You felt like they were just going to pour it on. This was the get right game. This was the, the Blood Feud victory that we were looking for.
Right.
Until it wasn't.
Until they couldn't. It was really funny is this, they score this goal and it almost felt like a switch just went off, where all of a sudden the first 4 minutes are incredibly threatening. And then it feels like they didn't threaten again for another 20, 25 minutes outside of, I think that there was one shot that maybe Luka took or Pavel took from way outside that went off the crossbar.
Yeah.
That, looked insane, but really wasn't going to score. It was off the top of the bar. It wasn't like it came close or had to be tipped over or anything like that. But the rest of the time, it was the midfield unable to string passes together, to hold possession, to build to anything that was threatening. And it was a lot more of what we'd seen previously, and that's Lucho trying to do everything and not a lot of support, not a lot of help happening elsewhere with that. They were on their back foot, it felt like, from every minute forward up until Red Bulls took the lead.
Yeah. Yeah. And
why is that? What is it about this team that it just feels like a difference between this year and last year? Is that last year they were able to go through the gears and get the ball advanced into the opponent's third and create threatening opportunities. Now it just feels like there is something that happens in the middle third where there isn't that incisive pass that gets the ball advanced further.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interceptions. There's a lot of, we're out of ideas. We're going to pass backwards. Yeah. And the attack never recycles forward to the point that it went backwards from.
So I think there's a couple of things happening here. I think one of them is, and it's not really a criticism, but feel free to take it this way. Lucho has a lot of positional freedom on this team, which has always been great. And he pops up in weird places and he forces defenses to sort of conform to him. But I think he is trying to overcompensate from what we're not getting in the attack from the forwards, that he is pushing far forward and he is pushing out to the wings more. And he's basically vacating the middle of the field. So rather than orchestrating from the middle of the field, the folks in the middle of the field are forced to find Lucho in weird positions, either very far forward and sort of forcing him with passes to take on 4 defenders by giving him the ball right in front of the defense, or passing it to him out wide where every attack on planet Earth is just less effective the wider out it gets. Defenses are tied to push guys out wide. You'll rather face a bunch of crosses than a bunch of really clever passes from Lucho in midfield to streaking strikers into the box. I think that's part of it. I think the other part of it is Obi's not back to 100% fitness, and with that, he's been a little rougher on the ball, and Bucha is getting flustered, it looks like, mainly in that he's just not used to the system yet. So he's not 100% clear where he needs to go with the ball instinctively. He's taking an extra moment, finding Lucho, finding whoever, or turning around and passing it backwards. And it's just not coming off as cleanly as Moreno made it look like. Moreno had some of the best possession stats in this league, and Bucha isn't him yet. Let's hope. So
Moreno had a lot of time on this team. Moreno, by the time this team was fully clicking last year, Moreno was a year into the team, and he was an MLS pro. He was a vet. Yep. He'd been around this league for a really long time.
Had played with Lucho, I want to say.
Yeah, in DC,
at least for a season or two. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very hard to fake that experience, I think. And I think we're learning that a little bit with Orishano, and we're learning that with Bucha. The other thing I've noticed, and I don't know if you've noticed this as well, is that when Lucho drifts out wide, he likes to drift out to the left-hand side.
Yes.
He prefers to drift out to the left-hand side. Barreal felt a lot more comfortable than moving in more centrally to keep the spacing.
Yep.
I don't see Orishano doing that as effectively. Orishano wants to keep getting... If Lucho comes out wide to the left, Orishano doesn't go to the middle. Orishano advances further up the left. Yeah. So it makes us very positionally heavy in that spot, and it leaves the middle open for when there's a turnover that there's no one to win the second ball.
Yeah.
So it just attacks die that way. I don't know. The other thing too that I'm curious about your take on is Aaron Bopenza. Mm-hmm. Because in previous games, Aaron Bopenza you'd notice he gets into a good spot or he does something that's threatening. It felt like for most of this game, especially in the first half, he was a non-factor. What's going on there, do you think?
So it's really hard to say. I think, as far as I can tell, he is, I hope, he is asked to be a poacher for this team, to be in the box, waiting for the ball to drop to his feet and to pounce on it. And that's what he's good at. He also seems to be very fast and very good at hitting on the break and catching guys. Now, there's a part of that, and I see this as a criticism, and sure, it does start to pile up, but this is why he's constantly being flagged as being offsides. That's just where he lives. That is another criticism you'll see people will levy, that he hangs out too far behind the play after the play is gone, and he's not rushing back. This is a time-tested trick that strikers do, which is they hang out in the box, the play moves way up the field, and they stay there. And if you notice, they slowly work their way back up. They're hoping that the defense forgets they're there, so that they are onside for the one moment that they need to be onside, and they are back the other way, and they will turn it on when they need to. If you watch him very closely and the ball does start to suddenly come back, you will see him sprint to be back onside. It is not a pure lazy thing. We've done this with Okoli. We did this with GB. We did this a little bit with Brenner, although Brenner really liked to go back and combine with folks in the midfield. It's been a while since we've had a true poacher like this. And I guess Brandon was a little bit. But what Brandon did, what we don't get anymore, is the hold-up play, where he was asked to put the defense on his back, back to goal, collect the ball, play it off to Lucho, play it off to Brenner, play it off to Bopenza, and have them score. We don't have that guy. Kubo is not a hold-up striker. Bopenza is definitely not that guy.
Santos isn't.
Santos is definitely not that guy. Baird, I don't think, is that guy. Maybe that's what they were trying to convert him to. I haven't really seen it. I think he was more of the... this is a silly comparison, but he's more the Brenner type, where he's expected to come back and combine. That's the role that Kubo was playing, is expected to come back and combine. And you can see that in their overall touches. Kubo has 50 touches on the ball this game. He's very involved. He's coming back constantly, especially from the striker position. Aaron Bopenza gets his foot on the ball 20 times in this game.
It's just not enough for a designated player.
It's not a lot.
You got to get yourself more involved. You got to get, and I understand it's not always on him. He's a striker. Someone has to get him the ball, but I don't know. It's almost like you want to force the ball to him a little bit more just to try and okay, we need to make you a part of this game. And the tough part about that is that Lucho doesn't like giving the ball up. If he doesn't Lucho isn't the kind of player that's going to force feed the ball to someone. Lucho is going to decide whether or not it's a good idea to make the pass. And if it's not a good idea to make the pass based on where you're at, that pass ain't happening. So I don't know. I don't know that Lucho is compatible with the idea of I need you to keep feeding the ball to Aaron Bopenza. And we need to get him hot.
And not to bring up this old chestnut, but I just would suspect that Lucho is going to be even less likely to give the ball to Bopenza than maybe other players on the team. There does seem to be a lack of trust with Bopenza, which is weirdly, I think, unfounded. That when Bopenza has had his opportunities, he tends to do well. And maybe he's not scoring a goal every time, but he is one of the most accurate strikers in MLS, at least in terms of putting shots on frame. You never know what's going to happen. A rebound, a misplay by the keeper, whatever it is. And, oh, by the way, goals tend to happen when you put the ball on frame. Which
is how the goal got scored with Kubo, is that it's someone taking a rip, and then the second ball or the rebound, the defense is out of shape, out of position, and it leads to an open opportunity for Kubo. I don't know. The attack isn't working right now.
Yeah.
And I'm just the Kubo move seemed like a purposeful move by Noonan of we need to try something different here. I don't know.
Does the early goal, despite the struggles that we see later on, does the early goal secure Kubo starting the next game?
I don't know. Maybe.
See, this is the funny thing where you
gotta pick something and commit to it, I think. Because if the idea is that the team is still gelling, the team needs to learn some things, you just need to pick one of these solutions and just give it some time. And unless the film is just bad, and I don't know, I'm not in the coaching room, obviously. I mean, I don't know what they're being asked to do. I don't know if players are not doing what they're supposed to do, and that's the reason why playing time changes. But it feels just like pick something and go with it. But if you're going to keep changing things, the next move I want to see is him put Dado Valenzuela up top next.
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
I will say Valenzuela's emergence makes starting Kubo easier because you're not. Kubo's always the first option off the bench for everybody, right? But once Dado is an option off the bench, at least in midfield, it makes things a little easier to have Kubo up top.
I'm okay giving Kubo another run at this. I saw enough. It produced a goal. I'm curious. I'm Kubo curious, if you will.
I am very Kubo curious in that we still know nothing about this man, but
nothing.
Yes.
I should have asked Evan specifically, give me a Kubo fact. I need a Yuya Kubo fact. That's a missed that's a Jimbo on my part. We're talking about this because I don't want to talk about the next thing that happens.
Yeah,
let's go. Let's do it. Let's rip the Band-Aid off.
Frankie Amaya scores a goal. It's a really good goal. It looks great. It's laid off to him. Louro
it's the keeper's worst nightmare, and that's a ball from the dead center of the top of the 18-yard box where every option is available to him at all places of the goal to shoot at, and he puts it directly into the lower corner where Inspector Gadget's about the only person that could have stopped that shot.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he's screened on that play. I think between Miazga and Keller, I don't think he has a good opportunity to see this until late. It's a tough one. It sucks. And Frankie Amaya's last goal was also against us, against the team that unveiled the supporter shield to the home crowd. Look, don't stop booing. This is really fun.
Don't do it.
It adds to the rivalry.
I guess we should talk that there was Tyler Snipes writes for MLS.com. Tyler, a Cincinnati resident, got the story here on this with Frankie Amaya, and he asked him some questions, and I think it's just worth reading what he said here. So I'm just going to read this little portion of this from the top. It's on MLSsoccer.com, MLSsoccer.com, if you're, actually reading it correctly. It's a rare position of power to silence an away crowd, but that's what former FC Cincinnati midfielder Frankie Amaya did on Saturday. And any observer who sensed there was a little something extra in his celebration would be right. Amaya, Cincinnati's first ever Super Draft selection, has had something of a contentious relationship with Cincinnati supporters since he left for Red Bull New York in 2021. And the Cincy faithful let him know it every time he touches the ball in their city. Quote, "I think we have no relationship anymore," said Amaya. "I think it started off with me. I was in the wrong, and I can see why they react like that. The running meme is Amaya never sent a thank you message to the fans when he left Cincinnati for the Red Bulls early in the 2021 season. That day count is up over 1,000 days. And it's a message that they probably will never receive. Saturday's goal was Amaya's second at TQL Stadium as a Red Bulls player. Quote, "I really don't care what they say at this point," said the now veteran. Quote, "I'm here to do one thing, and that's win the game for my team."
Wow, Frankie Amaya is a veteran, and Evan Louro is still a youngster.
Still a youngster.
Before we talk about this, I got to say, Tyler Snipes put it in the tweet. Caught up with FCC's old pal, Frankie Amaya. He's seeing your thank you tweets / the clock. Yes.
And I want to make it very clear, very, very clear. We started the Frankie didn't thank the fans thing.
Yes.
And it makes me so happy that he has seen that dumb clock on our website. He has seen the clock and still chosen not to thank the fans. Not even like a cursory little thank you.
It's so
I don't
good.
Get it. He's a villain. He's a villain. You know why you should boo him? Because he is a villain. He knows what he has done is wrong, and he has chosen not to make it right by issuing a thank you. That's his choice. He has chosen the dark side of the force. I didn't choose that for him. He has started down the dark path, and we owe it to him to remind him of that every single time.
Yeah. And he knows he could end this, and I think this is the only time you're allowed to stop booing if he thanks the fans.
He thanks the fans. If he says thank you.
Then you can stop booing. Then we will have ended on a cordial accord there.
Kevin, what say you to the people out there in the Twitterverse, I'm not going to name any names, who may be suggesting that the booing is hurting more than it's helping because it motivates Frankie to do better?
Look, I'm not going to lie. I, too, notice that Frankie tends to do well when we boo him. The New York Red Bulls play us very tough. I'll also throw out there the Columbus Crew tends to do pretty good against us, and we hate them. Just because your rival, and I will stand firm on that New York Red Bull is our rival, I don't even need them to acknowledge it. I care more about this game than maybe anybody else. I don't know. It doesn't change anything. I still want to beat them. I still want to boo them. I still want them to do poorly. I still think, as a fan of Major League Soccer, they are a net negative in terms of their marketing, in terms of their style of play, in terms of everything, with the ever so slight exception of their academy. That's okay. It does all right for U.S. soccer. But otherwise, they're a net negative for all things. I do not like this team. I do not like this franchise. I do not like Frankie Amaya. Frankie Amaya maybe doesn't start for this team, but he'd be a useful piece on this team. He could have been our star player. He could have been the youngster that, we have all the hopes and dreams for. And no, he demanded a trade away, and we won a trophy before he did. So fuck him. That's all there is to it. Do not, just because somebody, scores on you, don't give up the hate. It's okay.
Keep that hate in your heart.
Exactly.
Question. Given what you just said, and this kind of this just occurred to me just now, so this might not be a fully formed take, but
I like this.
Okay. So we boo the Columbus Crew a lot, and they do well against us.
Okay.
We boo Frankie Amaya a lot, and he does well against us. In a way, when we boo people, they get better at their jobs, right?
Okay, I see where this is going. I don't like it, but continue.
Should we be booing people working on a cure for cancer or something that will like help society?
I was going to say we start booing our own team, but yeah,
right.
Yeah, you should boo. And next time you find a cancer researcher, only if you're an FC Cincinnati fan. If for some reason you have made it this far into this episode and you are not an FC Cincinnati fan, one, I'm so sorry you got lost, and two, don't do this. Yeah, please.
Share this podcast with someone who might like FC Cincinnati.
Yeah,
or
do that.
Any of your friends that own businesses in Cincinnati that can offer sponsorships. We still don't have a sponsor between segment 2 and segment 3. Many people are noting. Come on
now. But if you're an FC Cincinnati fan, boo a cancer researcher in your life. Boo somebody.
Make sure you tell them it's because I really want a cure.
No. Contextless is way better here.
Jesus.
Oh, you're a heart surgeon? Boo! Yeah, this will make a lot of sense.
Fuck you, doctor. Clap, clap.
These are the
the power of our booze.
we could change the world.
Booze, but
so yeah, maybe that's the case. It does suck to boo Frankie and then he scores. Like there's no worse feeling than that.
No. Why don't we have somebody like that on FC Cincinnati where they boo our player and he always just absolutely annihilates him?
I guess that's Lucho, but
I feel like if Red Bulls had fans that showed up at games, Matt Miazga might be that. But
true. Ooh, would they boo their own? In a way, we're booing our own with Frankie.
They did boo their own. That's why, famously, why he wasn't available to play in the Eastern Conference Final.
Would they boo their own? Of course they would, Kevin. You moron.
They did. We watched this happen. He gave him the hard hands and ended up in the locker room with some pizza. It's annoying.
God damn.
So then
Frankie scored.
That sucks. Frankie scored, and then the worst part was that you would have thought, oh, this is going to kick this team into gear, and it didn't.
No,
they go almost to halftime, and then in the stoppage time they concede a penalty on pretty clear foul by Matt Miazga. We talked about last week how he was pretty good at grabbing the shirt and doing all the things that didn't get seen by the ref. This time he got a little over his skis on this one, and it was very, very clear, very obvious that the penalty happened. But man, that penalty stopped by Evan.
As soon as it was awarded, I knew he was stopping it. I just knew. I was just like, he's got this, of course.
I knew because it's the funniest possible outcome. That all I do is I rant online about how terrible Roman is at stopping penalties. And people tell me it's not a skill, it's just luck. It's like, no, it is a skill. Evan is good at this.
Evan's good. He trains with Lucho, and
they have a scouting report on guys, and it's like, dive the other way. And in the box right there, he's like, no, I'm going against the scout, and I'm making the save.
Wait a second. Maybe Roman's going with the scout every time. Maybe the issues are our scouting department here. Maybe.
Or maybe, he just needs to get zen.
Yeah.
And what do you feel? Don't listen to the scouting report. You got to go by feel. You got to look that other man in the eye and think left or right. Where is he going?
Yeah. It always felt like Mitch was guessing in the moment. And Mitch was about as good as any keeper has ever been at stopping penalties. Yes, the Open Cup is the highlight, but he was very good even without that.
It's really funny too, is when Evan said he likes to go down the middle, so I could just stay here. And he's like, nah, I'm not doing that. And I know exactly what was going through his head. And it's like, I'm not getting beat by my first PK just standing here. I'm going to get beat going one way or the other. You can't do that.
You got to go full stretch regardless. I
thought we were going to win. I thought at that point, I was like, yep, we're coming back. We're winning this baby. The vibes going into halftime were immaculate in that moment.
Yeah, it should have been. But that's not really how it played out. I think we did better in the second half. DeAndre Yedlin mentioned this post game, said that the team was really unsure about how Red Bull was pressing them. They couldn't figure out the press. And he said that's on him, and especially the veteran guys, to have sorted that out earlier, that once they once they talked to the coaching staff, they sort of got their heads around what was going on. They felt like they could play their game a little better. And it
Which,
was
to be clear too, it's a good reminder. Red Bulls changed their coaching staff in the offseason. So whereas in the past there were sort of years of footage of the Red Bull system to go on, they're kind of doing things a little differently this go around. It's not your father's Red Bull team or your older brother's Red Bull team.
Yeah, I agree with that. I would just point out that the coach they did hire is very much of the Red Bull, family of coaches and friends and teams. But I would completely agree, and not to hand it to ISIS here, but they were still flopping plenty. It wasn't quite the Red Bull that we have seen in the past. No. They were still actually attempting to play the sport at times.
But I will say they were aided in this game. We haven't talked about it yet, but the officiating was garbage in this game. It was absolutely garbage. It felt like there were two different standards of refereeing being applied. And I think somebody mentioned this in the Discord, but it was like parallel universe officiating, where the referee was consistently officiating New York, but consistently officiating Cincinnati in a completely different way, but was internally consistent to both teams, which makes absolutely no sense to me. A split personality thing. He was officiating two different games based on which player and which team was involved in any sort of conduct or altercation. And it was stupid shit, too. It was stupid little tic-tac fouls. I don't know. Am I off base on this? This was a game where I was like, just bring the replacement officials back, man. They were at least consistently shitty to both sides. This felt like it was this felt like purpose driven here.
Yeah, in general, yes. Actually, when you look at the total cumulative numbers, the foul numbers lined up pretty closely. 19 fouls.
But it wasn't like that for the majority of the game.
Right.
For the majority of the game, when the game was in doubt, there was a gross disparity in fouls. I think the Red Bulls racked up a bunch at the end as they were trying to kill the game off.
They did. In the first half, we led 11 fouls committed to their 4, for example.
That's nonsense. That's absolutely nonsense.
And I agree. Towards the end of the game, especially as they're trying to see out the game, they definitely hit the fouls there. There were two moments in particular that stuck out to me. One, very late in the game, and I'm not going to remember the Red Bull player, does a heinous flop when Lucho is waving his arms wildly and attempts to make it look like Lucho hit him in the face. And it is, what kills me about this is it is such a gross use of the simulation of flopping to where you're not trying to win a foul. It's not during the run of the game. You are attempting to get a player thrown out, a red card applied for violent conduct, for conduct that didn't even kind of happen. Right. It's not the bullshit thing with Aaron Long where maybe Lucho got a little too close. It was absolute nonsense, and it should have resulted in a yellow card, and it didn't, and that's a failure of VAR and the center referee, and the fact that they didn't go back and look at any of the handballs. I know VAR reviews it, but it is very annoying to me that the center referees are allowed to, not play by those rules, that the replacement referees absolutely had to. And I think with a replacement referee, there would have been a review at least.
Yeah. You could get all that nonsense out of the game completely by saying that if you go to a VAR check for a possible red for violent conduct and it turns out it's simulation, that you issue the card, the VAR can issue the yellow card for simulation. That the VAR check doesn't have to just be for red or no red or yellow. The VAR check could also fault the player that flopped to the ground off no contact for simulation. You would get that out of the game instantaneously.
Yeah, it needs to not be a fine after the fact. Like, that is clearly not a deterrent. It needs to be a sporting punishment in order to stamp this out of the game. And that's what needs to happen here. He needs a retroactive yellow card for simulation, and I really hope we see it this week. It really desperately needs to be applied because it was heinous. It was an attempt to get the league's reigning MVP thrown out of a game for something that did not happen. Like, there isn't even an equivalent in like baseball or football or maybe in basketball. But yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird.
It would be like in baseball, going up and like to the pitcher and like giving him a high five at first base and then slapping on some spider tack onto his hands and then screaming that like, oh, he's got something on his hands. He's got something on his hands that you put there.
Right. That probably is the baseball equivalent.
That'd be such an insidious move. You issue an intentional walk to the pitcher, then have your first baseman like grease his hands up with as much of that shit as possible.
Yeah.
And then, hey, good to see you, man. How's it going? Slap hands with the guy. And then immediately complain to the umpire. Look at all this shit I got on my hand from him. He's got to have something on the baseball.
Yeah, because it can't be during the course of the game. Like Derek Jeter faked a hit by pitch before and took a base. Like it can't be during the course of the game. It has to be outside of it. So yeah, it's like, I guess taking a WWE punch during a fight or something where you're like trying to fake that you got hit by the guy. It's so weird.
So I still, even though they started the second half slow, I still thought that there was an opportunity for this team to grow into the game a little bit.
Yes.
The defense wasn't playing great, but they also weren't playing terribly. The player who really was not good in this game was Obi, and that's very uncharacteristic. And I hope it's like you said. I hope it's that he's still not fully 100% from whatever injury he had. I know he had a minutes restriction on him last week. This week he was a full participant in training, able to fully play. He just doesn't look comfortable with the ball.
Yeah,
he didn't look comfortable with the ball in this game. He got turned over that led to the first goal, and it wasn't clean with him at all this game. I thought that this was one of his poorer games that he's played so far for us.
Yeah, I'd completely agree. He got his pocket picked a couple of times. Same with Bucha as well. And this is a credit to Red Bull that they are a good team. That they are they're always a good pressing team in particular. They're going to get us sometimes. Like Red Bull is one of those teams that historically is a team that other teams struggle to play against. They don't do well against that defensive pressure that they apply. And yeah, it really showed tonight with some of these guys. They weren't up to the typical standard there. I'll throw in there too, not one of Lucho's best performances overall. I'll say in maintaining possession, in, trying to dribble through defenses where he definitely should have been passing. He's trying to do too much. And Noonan said as much. Everybody on the team is trying to do too much. They all need to calm down, take a breath, and be more methodical about it, which is funny because that was a criticism of this team last year, is that they couldn't play with urgency when they were down because they were just so goddamn methodical that they stuck to their system every time, that now they always feel a little panicked or a little rushed before getting the ball where it needs to go. I don't know. I was
hoping
weird.
that scoring the early goal finally would get rid of some of that, and it just didn't.
Yeah.
You would think it's one thing if you're not, you haven't scored a goal yet, you're trailing and it's like we're pressing, but they were up, and you would think that would be like, okay, we can calm down, we can play a little bit more. Just wasn't the case.
Yeah.
Second goal for New York. Not great. The defending on that was pretty poor. I thought I think it caught Evan off guard that who was it that scored the second goal? Was it
Van Zier?
Which is just perfect. What a brilliant human being he is.
Mm-hmm.
But if you watch it back, he manages somehow to lose his defender by cutting the ball back inside, which that should never happen. Like, you should never allow in a 1v1 situation like that. You've got to be keeping leverage on the play in order to keep your guy from cutting back in. So he is able to get the ball behind the defender, or almost like stop, move the ball, transition to the middle. And then I don't think Evan is expecting him to be able to do that and take a snapshot like he does. I think if Evans was honest with himself, I think he'd think he could do a little better on that he got a hand to it. But it happens. It's a 1v1 situation, and that's tough because they'd been playing a little better in the second half, and I think that goal was a little bit against the run of play when it happens.
Yeah, so it's Forsberg with the assist. It's a really well hit pass, as you'd expect from a DP midfielder with international and Champions League experience like Forsberg has. What's killer here, though, is that Robinson slows down to deflect the ball. And I think he actually gets a piece of it, but it's not enough to actually stop it. And him and Yedlin are playing Van Zier the exact same way. And so when he pulls out his little Cruyff turn, they are both caught running the wrong direction. Nobody's covering that play. Miazga's trailing behind the play. And Evan gets a hand to it. It's not even hit all that hard, but yeah, just the abruptness of the turn and then the immediate shot. It is quite a bit. And of course, the defenders are shielding it right up until the final moment of when the ball is struck. So it's tough. It's a tough play. I agree. I think Evan would like to have that one back, but yeah, it just sucks that ends up being it. And then we're stuck rooting for a draw for the rest of this game. That it's, this team.
You have a tough time thinking they're going to score two. You're thinking they might be able to get one out.
Yeah.
But even then, we've talked about this earlier as well. There's just not a lot of great options to go to for Noonan in terms of we got to go chase this game. Now you can bring Corey Baird in. You can bring Santos in, but it's just there's not a lot of game changing. Like, oh my God, they're bringing this dude in,
right, in
order to pick up the goal or to at least try to change the game state that they're playing in, and that's tough. I think when there's just not a lot of bullets left to fire on things. What was interesting to me though, and I don't know how you took this, Kevin, is that we see a substitution for Mr. Assad coming in.
Yeah.
In the 85th minute. What do you make of this?
It's interesting.
For those, I guess if you don't know, Yamil Assad is his name.
Yes.
He was I think he was a trialist for a little bit, and then apparently we signed him, and he and Lucho have some sort of a connection. Is that right? They played together in DC a bunch of years ago, I think. He's Argentinian as well.
Yeah, and they played together in Argentina, if not coming up through their academy together. I don't have his stuff up in front of me, and I can't pull it up right now. But that's exactly right. They played together in DC. Before that, he was on that inaugural Atlanta United team. He played really well. He actually looked like he'd be one of the next stars of this league. He kind of washed out of the league. He's 29 years old. So I guess, according to our announcers, still a youngster.
Yeah. And according to Evan, until you get to 3.
Yeah, he's a youngster.
Yeah.
I don't know what this makes Steven Jimenez, but yeah.
Embryonic?
Yeah, right.
An actual child.
Legally, at least.
Right.
So he comes in. He's definitely somebody that has a connection with Lucho and really demonstrated it in this one. Comes in for Orishano, and already Lucho and him are working together on that left side. It looks good. There's a moment late in the game where Lucho decides to hit a corner deep, and I do want to talk about his dead balls here for a second, but he has a 2-on-1 with Assad and himself against Frankie, and they don't take that opportunity to go 2-on-1. It blows my mind that Lucho is determined to hit these long ball corners where his value is never with crossing, and it's never with dead balls. It's always with interplay, give and goes, creating chaos in the box. And he passes that up every single time. And I'm sure it's a coaching decision, but man, I try it a few more times than they do. I don't know.
He's it's mercurial with the set pieces. There are times where Lucho looks really, really good on the set pieces. I forget, there was a game earlier this season, I want to say it was against Chicago maybe, where they were playing a lot of corners to the near post, a lot of low corners, and they'd clearly identified something in scouting, and it was really, really good.
Right.
But then in this one, there were a lot of corners that got taken in this game where they were these big looping balls that had absolutely no chance of doing anything remotely threatening with them. I don't know. It's work in progress, I guess. That's the motto of the episode at this point. I was just fascinated by the idea that Assad was getting in. Is it Assad or is that how it's pronounced?
I think it's Assad. Yeah.
Assad. I don't want to. That's one of those names where you don't want to say that one wrong, just because,
right.
Geopolitics and whatnot. Interesting to me that he got the run immediately, and I think that speaks a little bit to the idea of what we were talking about earlier, and that's what's kind of missing on this team is chemistry and people that are familiar with one another, the people that play with one another and know what's going on here. Otherwise, I thought the subs were pretty forgettable. The interesting thing to me also, we didn't mention it, was that Kip Keller comes down at the half for Ian Murphy.
Yeah.
Not one of Keller's better games. I think we're seeing, and there's a trend that I think people are picking up on. Keller is very uncomfortable playing with his left foot. Very, very uncomfortable playing with his left foot.
Yeah.
So I think teams know that, and I think there's a scouting report out on him in terms of what to do with Kip in order to make him less effective. I don't know if that's going to change anything going forward about the deployment, but Murphy comes in the second half, and I think Murphy played better than Kip did. I think Murphy is probably should be the first choice on that back line.
I would agree. I honestly was a little surprised at Keller's inclusion in the starting lineup. To be clear, I'm the Keller guy, right? But
right.
Yeah, it's a little weird. It's also the second game in the row that Ian Murphy comes in at halftime for the not Miazga or Robinson center back. He subs in for Haglund in the Charlotte game at halftime as well. So
that's an interesting trend. Let's put a pin in that as to whether or not this is a plan that does it count as a substitution window if you sub at the half?
I don't think so.
You get 5 subs anyway. Put a pin in this and keep an eye on this as to whether or not there is a 45-minute rotation with a couple of these guys.
Yeah, it'll be super interesting against Montreal. Not a formidable opponent. You could see a Miazga or Robinson sitting and coming in the at halftime for sure. So yeah, that's a good call. That is something that we might see continue. Or maybe this is 2 weeks in a row. Noonan's regretted not starting Murphy. And maybe this is just Murphy's starting job going forward. I don't know.
I don't know. There's no way of knowing. Who could tell, right?
The game ends with a whimper. They take it 2-1. The Fortress has its first league blemish. We did lose to Monterey earlier this year. The first American team that we've lost to in some time in TQL. I don't know. Chief, we did a lot of the big picture at the beginning. Where
do they go from here? That's the question. I think it will be very interesting to see as the week progresses. Number one, is there anything else going on? Well, I mean, we can talk a little bit about this in segment 3, but what do they do from here? And I think it's going to be interesting to see how they respond to this.
Yeah. Speaking of, should we head on over there?
Let's head on over there.
Let's do it. All right, here we are, part 3, and we're going to touch on a couple of rumors, some other news around FCC, and then we're going to end with a little in the 11 out of the 18. After a loss, you don't want to be doing too much of this, team news nonsense.
Right.
But yeah, I want to bring this one back up. We did mention this. Kevin Kelsey. He is a 19-year-old Venezuelan international. I bring this up again just to say that Matt Doyle does his sort of weekly rundown column of every team, every game in MLS that weekend. Matt Doyle mentions Kelsey by name in his article talking about the Red Bull match. I bring that up to say this. These insiders, these guys like Doyle, guys like Twellman is another one to keep an eye on, even a little Tom Bogert, they are not just pulling this shit out of their ass. And yes, there are rumors out there and they see rumors, but they are only going to mention things that they think are credible. And oh, by the way, they work for the league.
Yeah.
So they have heard things from important people. Maybe the people that do the paperwork, maybe the people that investigate immigration stuff. I don't know what people they get to talk to in the league office. When
we put people on our discovery list because we're intending on maybe moving on them in the future.
Yes. Someone somewhere knows something and he mentions it in his article. So when we do eventually sign him, Doyle can say, yep, I called this. I thought this was a move. It's not going to highlight the fact that he was given this info.
That would be a fun thing to do. Go back through every one of Matt Doyle's articles and see how many of the people he mentions as rumors say that this person is a target. See how many of them actually pan out as, yes, they ended up signing this person because he knew exactly what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this incestuous media relationship that the league employees that are posing as neutral, independent media, they know what's going on. It's not that big of a league office, and it's not that big of a league in terms of the people involved in it. All these people know one another and talk to one another.
Mm-hmm.
So there is so much smoke around the Kelsey thing. I don't know. He was apparently on the bench he was on Shakhtar. Is that right?
Yeah. Shakhtar Donetsk, which is one of the better teams, maybe one of the best teams in Ukraine, regular appearances in the Champions League, a regular importer of South American talent. They spend a lot of money. For Call of Duty fans, the original Warzone map is loosely based off, I would say strongly based on their stadium, their home grounds.
Really?
If you've run around that map, you've been around Shakhtar Donetsk's home stadium. Yeah.
I've died so many times in that stadium.
You already know. You know where the concourses are. Yeah.
It is so hard to get out of that, or it was. All right, so
there you go.
This is not part of this. They fucked up when they changed the original Warzone map. The original Warzone map was perfection.
Yep.
I would pay a lot of money to go back and have the original Warzone map back. That was peak. I'm on furlough from my job and it's COVID and life sucks. And I was drunk on bourbon and cheap beer every night of the week playing Warzone with the boys.
Warzone early pandemic was so much fun.
It was so good.
So much fun.
It was my only social outlet, was hopping on the sticks and we're dropping at the cop station. Let's do this again.
It was for me, a video game nerd for a long time, love a first person shooter. The idea of a 150 person battle royale Call of Duty game in a gigantic Call of Duty map is like blowing, younger me's mind that this was even possible. It's so cool.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Now I definitely hope this deal gets done.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's the transfer window for MLS closes on April 23rd. So they've still got 2.5 weeks to get this across the finish line.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Kevin, do you think that the offensive struggles that we've seen this team has, is that possibly going to tempt old Carl to or at least Albright to be a little more forceful with Carl and Jeff to say, we'd be lovely if we could open the wallet up a little bit more to get this deal done?
I think there's some of that. I do think that this ownership group has never been, hesitant to spend. At least I don't think we've seen anything like that. I don't think we've ever really truly been outbid for a player. If anything, we've been criticized for spending too much on Brenner. Lucho even. Yeah, so I think there is some of that. But, on the same vein as the the Doyle's articles mentioning guys, Keys is someone in the Discord that has flagged this, and if I've got the attribution wrong, please skewer me in the chat. But he's pointed out that Taylor Twellman has mentioned a couple of times that Bupenza is someone that he could see the team moving on from this summer if the production doesn't step up. And Noonan and Twellman are best buds. Like, they go way back to where they were childhood friends. Like, I think even before either one of them were particularly good at soccer. Like, and if Twellman's saying things like that, it's a similar thing. So I don't know if Kelsey is the savior here, but there is so much smoke around the team doing something at striker, and maybe it's as dramatic as transferring out Bupenza, bringing in a youngster, bringing in somebody else. I don't know, but that U22 spot is open.
Right.
So maybe.
I don't know. It's interesting. And it's like, this team has never been shy about spending money, but by the same token, it might not even be a thing where Albright has been told you have a budget for this striker. It could just be Albright is operating under the idea of, you don't want to go and ask mom and dad for, if you go and ask mom and dad, can I borrow $10? You're going to get $10.
Right.
If you go and ask mom and dad, can I borrow $1,000? They're going to say, what is going on right here? So I would assume that when it comes to the negotiation and the asking price, it's all about whether or not Albright wants to spend some political capital to say, I believe this person, and I'm putting my reputation on the line to a certain extent, that this person is worth what they are asking for, and I think we should pay this. Yeah. Versus trying to negotiate them down to a point where he doesn't feel like he has to do that as much. But I don't know. It's with every passing game that the offense seems stagnant, you do wonder if the pressure is on to do something. And this is where I don't envy guys like Chris Albright, where you're trying to decide how much of the struggles are going to be fixed with time and how much of the struggle requires a paradigm shift in terms of the talent on the field. And that's a question that is probably giving him premature gray hair, I would imagine.
Right. Well, I will say, if the answer isn't Kevin Kelsey, similar to you, Yakubo, maybe the answer is already in the house. Okay. Oh, the U17 GA Cup wrapped up an eventful tournament. Multiple teams accused of racially abusing each other. A full-on melee between the Philadelphia Union and Fluminense.
Yeah. Didn't Red Bull's team withdraw over racism allegations?
From a team in Eastern Europe, their Hajduk Split, I want to say, something like that. But wild tournament. A lot needs to be done in regards to player safety.
We need to clean this one up a little bit, because they were broadcasting these games on Apple TV.
Yeah,
like, that's not a great look for the league.
That's rough. It's really rough. But out of all of that, of the teams that did eventually finish the tournament, Stefan,
that's why you're the host. That's why you. I don't complain that you call yourself the host of the show at the in the cold open. You got to do shit like this then.
Chirla, Stefan Chirla is what I'm going to go with until again somebody tells me how wrong I am. Stefan Chirla, FC Cincinnati U17 forward, wins the Golden Boot for the tournament. So we have a 17-year-old. He made his debut with FC Cincinnati 2 this season. Wins the Golden Boot at the coveted GA Cup tournament.
The Guardian Angels Cup.
Yeah.
Live from Anderson.
This is exciting. I don't know. Somebody somewhere in the organization is capable of scoring goals. This feels like a good positive development for the team.
I don't know. Call him up. What the hell? 17?
Yeah, we sent Kimi on loan. This is our new Kimi.
Yeah. Friendship with Kimi ended. New friendship established. Yeah, why not? The hell with it. Like, if you're not going to bring in a U22 striker, if that deal gets scuttled, give this kid a run. How many? You get like a certain number of call-ups per year, right? Where you can like sign someone to a temporary deal from the 2 team.
Yeah, he gets, I think it's 4 10-day call-ups. So depending on, exactly when, or maybe it's not a 10-day, maybe it's a 4-day window. I don't know. But there's an opportunity to get him for a weekend match and a weekday match coming up. So, yeah, there's an opportunity for the loan.
This is where I lament the death of the U.S. Open Cup. Because your kid wins the Golden Boot Award at the GA tournament. I'd throw him out there for a run against Lou City or Lexington or whatever nonsense team we draw in the first round. That would have been great.
It would have been the perfect opportunity to bring him in. But alas, we just have, That
would have happened if we would have sent our 2 teams like we wanted to.
Yeah.
Before all you people started bitching. You ruined this young man's ability to play in the U.S. Open Cup. I hope you all are happy. Pro-rel nonsense merchants.
Oh my gosh. Just ridiculous. No, really, really
it's all
happy.
Your fault, Kartik.
It really is.
Yeah, most things in life are his fault.
I'm just pasting these images to you so you can compare Shakhtar Donetsk Stadium to Warzone Stadium. It is the exact same thing.
It really is. Even with that, I have died in that grassland around the stadium.
Yes.
Like trying to run somewhere else. I have died there so many times.
It's just it's a wide open area. That's exactly.
No, that's a killing field for people like me.
Yeah, it's so funny. The parking lot, even in the same.
The parking lot. Kyle and I have died there so many times. Oh Lord. Well,
good times.
That's that. Like, come on, Kevin, let's do this. And we'll hop on the sticks when you get here. Like,
yeah, right.
You're 19. You play. I know that.
He'll get it.
Right. Well, the problem is, as a European, he's probably statistically likely to be a PlayStation guy, and that just doesn't fly with the chief.
Yeah, no. Xbox, ever since I started getting achievements on the old Xbox 360, it's too hard to switch.
Yeah, it's too hard to switch. Yeah.
My life, they got me, My life is already over there.
Damn it.
Chief, let's wrap this up with a little in the 11 out of the 18. We have to hit our contractually obligated 2 hours here. So
yeah, it gives just like ending things on a high note.
Yeah.
In the 11 this week, I am gonna go with. Well, can I go out of the 18 first?
Yeah, please.
All right, we're gonna start with out of the 18. Out of the 18, Eclipses.
Oh, okay, bold.
I don't care. I don't care. And it feels like I'm being gaslit a little bit by the media that this is something important and this is something big. They're putting advisories out to put gas in your tank.
Yeah, and to have 2 days of food in your car. What?
Yeah, like what's going to happen to people that go to drive to see this? Like, I had thought like, oh, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe this is a once in a lifetime opportunity I'm going to regret not doing. But then I'm reading stuff like that and I'm like, wait, how long am I going to be stuck wherever it is I'm going?
Yeah. You're not working from home on the road wherever this is. It's going to be awful. And I don't buy it. You know what's funny? There was an eclipse in 2017 and I drove deep into Kentucky to get into the path of totality. I've already experienced it. I don't know why everybody's freaking out about this one. Like, there was one not long ago in the general area and the highway wasn't crowded. I don't know. Like, it was pretty easy drive.
Was it worth it, Kevin?
It was weird. It's super weird. I had the forethought to go down with a buddy and we just hung out in a Walmart parking lot. Like, you don't need a visual, like, you're not going to sit in a theater and watch this. It's just like, right. We found a public space, a Walmart parking lot. We were able to walk in and like get snacks, and we just camped out. And I don't even think we had Eclipse glasses. We had I made a pinhole camera out of a piece of cardboard and just watched it happen there. And then once it went dark, it's freaky. I will say we were in a parking lot, so like all the lights came on. And I was like, whoa, that's weird. And then that was it. Yeah. It was worth it because I got to hang out with a buddy and listen to podcasts for, 5 hours in the car. But
I mean, that's why we had to do this episode for 2 hours. We had to make sure if anyone gets caught in traffic, they got something to listen to.
Yeah. I will say, if you're listening to this and you have not left for wherever you're planning to watch this, you're already too late. You've already messed this up.
You've already screwed things up tremendously.
But don't feel like you got to go to a park. Go find a Kroger parking lot in the path of totality. Go find a tiny little dog park in the middle of nowhere in the path. Like, don't feel like you got to go to Pyramid Hill or Miami Whitewater. You will be stuck there for 3 days. According to Governor DeWine, you will be stuck there for 3 days.
My plan was I was just going to start driving towards the totality and then just pull off at like a Wendy's or something like that.
Yeah.
And just get a burger and hang out for a little bit.
Yeah.
I still might do that.
So yeah, I'll agree with you. Like, it feels weird that everybody's freaking out like we didn't just have one not that long ago.
Yeah. How do you feel about this, Kevin? I know that this is one of your favorite people, that you're a huge financial contributor and supporter of her. She's a woman by the name of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh, my hero. Yeah.
Yeah. Quote, God is sending America strong signs telling us to repent. Earthquakes and eclipses and many more things to come. I pray our country listens. Kevin, do you believe that this eclipse, which has been predicted with absolute certainty by astronomers for in excess of 100 years, do you believe that this is in fact a message being sent to America? Or more appropriately, is this a message being sent to Frankie Amaya to tell him he must repent and he must thank the fans?
Yes, obviously this is also a good reminder that God only wants some tiny sliver of the earth to repent at any one time. Just
a string of space from Texas going up across central Indiana and then terminating somewhere up near Rochester, New York, I think.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Buffalo.
So like, if you live in California, you clearly don't need to repent. If you're in, the congresswoman's district in Georgia, you don't need to repent. Anybody in the godless countries in Europe, you clearly don't need to repent because you're not getting an eclipse. But in 2036, some parts of Spain are going to need to repent. So
I think in Montana, like in 2040 something, like Montana definitely needs some saving, I think.
But until then, you're good. That's clearly what the message is.
Right. California, keep being a bunch of godless commies, apparently, because the eclipse didn't come for you.
Yeah. Looking at the path, the places that need to repent and turn to God are Texas, Indiana, Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Tennessee, the godless places in this country.
Cleveland is in the path of totality. That is a godless place that needs to repent. Many people have noted.
I just assume it's being smote during this eclipse, so that makes sense.
Yes. Kevin, what's out of your 18?
What is out of my 18? Out of my 18, I'll tell you this, not to make it about soccer, cold weather games. I'm done with them. I never want to go to an FC Cincinnati game this season that is cold unless it's in December, baby. That's what I want.
Or they're winning. Like if they're scoring 5 goals, the cold doesn't bother me.
Yeah, this was a sneaky one because it started off fine. That walk back was pretty cold. It was extra cold with the loss, but man, I'm looking forward to wearing my Cincy shirts, Hawaiian shirt to games,
yes. Promo
shorts
code to
games. Yes. No, I'm out on cold weather games. Spring break is over for I think everybody at this point. Bring on the warm weather games for me.
See, I delayed the walk back because as a denizen of the First Financial Club and a bougie individual now, they continue to serve beer for an hour after the game at half price. So I enjoyed a half price beer. I said hello to your good friend and mine, Jeff Smith from FC Cincinnati. Brandon Jones, also fan of the podcast. He was down there. I had myself another couple beers and watched the end of the NCAA tournament game. So
nice.
And then by the time I walked out, the beer blanket was completely on and we were off and running on that one.
Did you ask Jeff Smith to finally schedule us some time to get him on the podcast?
It didn't feel like the right moment there.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not after a loss. Nobody wants to talk about that at that point. I'm shocked you haven't agreed. Kevin, where do you stand on my call that there should be at least one game this year when the weather gets better as a either a tarps off for the lads or a no sleeves in the Bailey game? How do you feel about that?
I love this idea. I love the idea of more fan spirit days. And if that has to be us, I will gladly take that up. But we need more fan spirit days. I want to say back in 2019, there was an attempt at a dad day where everybody was going to wear flannel or at least some sort of...
It was for Ron Jans, remember?
Yeah.
Just, oops.
Well, back when we liked Ron Jans.
Right.
Yeah, everybody was going to wear flannel print or, checkers or whatever. Yeah, it didn't work out. But I want more of this.
Yeah,
a formal night.
Yeah. Everyone wears a suit or a tux. That would be hilarious. The entire drum line looks like the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones just hanging out there. Yeah, we're going to pick a game at this point. We're going to look at the weather forecast. We're going to find out when it's going to be hot, and we're going to do tarps off or no sleeves in the Bailey game. I think we should announce that. We'll pick that, and we'll make everybody do that.
I love that idea. Yeah,
I'm
way into that idea.
All right, in my 11 to finish us out. Well, you got to get your in the 11. Why don't you start out your in the 11, and then I'll finish this off.
My in the 11 is an easy one, and you might need to cut the mic on me because I will go long on this topic. Folks, in my 11, the Ohio State Park system. If you are not familiar with this concept, your great state, my great state, Ohio, has a number of state parks all around. There's a huge number of them. However, there is a particular subset of them that have Ohio State Park with lodges. And what these are essentially state-run hotels, state-owned, I should say, state-run hotels in some of the most beautiful parts of this great state. And they are fairly cheap to rent a hotel room. They have indoor pools. They have outdoor pools. They have racquetball. They've got, all your classic resort activities, either for rent for very cheap or just some sort of they'll hold your driver's license to get the equipment. Tons of well-maintained hiking trails, boats for rent. It is such a good time. It is such an affordable time. We're always able to take our kids to this, and they have the time of their life. And these things are never at even half capacity. It is the greatest, easiest vacation hack ever. They always have a restaurant attached to them, a bar attached to them. It's not a bad time. We hang out in the lobby. We're drinking red wine, reading books. It's a good time. All right. We're having a grand time. I cannot believe more people don't talk about this. And I will cheerlead these to the ends of the earth. It is one of the greatest things that the state of Ohio offers, and more people need to take advantage of it.
I've been to the one at Houston Woods outside of Oxford. They had a really nice lodge. Me and a couple coworkers back in the day when I first started working, we rented a cabin up there and got very, 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 very toasty. But
the cabins are great.
But we ended up wandering up to the lodge, and they had a bar there, and we were shocked. It's wait, there's a bar in here? So we shut the bar down, then walked back to our cabin again.
Yeah,
they're nice. They are a holdover from an era before the interstate highway system, where that would be a place where you would take the family on vacation. Because you could drive there, and you wouldn't need to spend long distances getting to Florida, where there was no ability to get someplace like Florida,
right,
or the coast conveniently. So you vacationed at state parks and places that had lodges and stuff. There's a not in the state of Ohio. There's a really great one out in outside of Nashville, Indiana, not Nashville, Tennessee, Nashville, Indiana. It's about a 2-hour drive from here. Indiana State Park, the Abe Martin Lodge.
Ooh,
delightful place right outside in Brown County, Indiana.
Huh.
If you're married, that's a place you can score points taking your wife to.
Nice.
Your wife will like Brown County, Indiana. Statistically speaking, not all women, but
well, sure, I can vouch for definitely Deer Creek Salt Fork, Shawnee, and then the one that we were just staying at, Maumee Bay, right on Lake Erie, just outside of Toledo. It was great. The GPS took us right through what I assume was the hood of Toledo.
There is no hood in Toledo. I spent 3 years living in Toledo. It was the longest time of my life.
Yeah, it was great. We go through all of the oil refineries, and you're like, where the hell are we going to end up? And no, it was beautiful. It was lovely.
No, I was going to say, like, if the eclipse totality passed over Toledo, no one would see it, because I lived there for 3 years. I don't think there was a sunny day once when I was living in Toledo.
It is
gray.
Yeah, it's a very gray city.
It is.
But yeah, Maumee Bay has a like a boardwalk wetlands trail through a huge area of the wetlands. So yeah, the weather wasn't great, but you're still able to get around and take the kids out a little bit. So yeah, no, it was, I cannot say enough about these things. It is so impressive. And I just feel like I don't ever hear anybody talk about these. So there you go.
There you go. Parks having a little bit of a glow up too with the eclipse thing too. A lot of people heading out to the parks and hanging out in the parks for this.
I love it. So with that, wrap us up.
My in the 11 is going to be WrestleMania, because as soon as we finish taping here, I got to start watching. Bad timing with an FC Cincinnati match during night one. I got most of night one done after the game. Came back and did the rest of night one today. I'm not going to spoil anything at this point, because I know it takes people a minute or two to get through this. The Rock remains the most electrifying man in professional sports and entertainment. It is incredible. My goal. I was saying this to a couple of my friends I was with the game with last night, who are also wrestling enthusiasts. I desperately want to go to a WrestleMania at some point. This year was not the year. It's in Philadelphia, at the Lincoln Financial, the new Veterans Stadium, whatever the hell they call it now. They've started doing, if you're not a wrestling fan or you're just casually, now WrestleMania is always at some sort of a giant football stadium. They don't do it in arenas any longer. So it's been in New York, it's been in Philly, it's been in Tampa, Miami, it was in San Francisco a few years ago. It was at SoFi, it's been at Jerry World. So I don't want to go to one of these ones where it's up north. I don't want to go to Philly. I don't want to go to New York.
No.
You could be getting yourself over your skis a little bit with that. I want them to bring pro wrestling to TQL Stadium. I think TQL Stadium would be a monster venue. You wouldn't be able to do WrestleMania there because it's too small.
Right.
But like SummerSlam or Money in the Bank or one of the other premier live events. I don't even call them pay-per-views anymore, because I don't think you can buy a pay-per-view
You can't buy the
anymore.
View, yeah.
Yeah, you cannot. There is literally no way to pay per view any longer. But I think it would be just absolutely incredible to have a wrestling event at TQL Stadium. You already you have the roof over most of the venue anyway.
Yep.
You would have the Bailey, which if you opened the Bailey up for seating, that would just be an electric environment to watch professional wrestling in. I want this to happen badly.
John Moxley, AEW, TQL Stadium feels like instant win. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not a wrestling guy. You tell me, but that feels super obvious.
That feels obvious. You know what we did learn the other day? I don't know if you saw this online, but it appears that one half of the WWE tag team, the Street Profits, one Angelo Dawkins, who is a resident of Cincinnati, Ohio, or at least a former resident of Cincinnati, Ohio, tweeted that he wants to come to an FC Cincinnati game. And to me, there is no bigger no-brainer than having one half of the Street Profits, or both of the Street Profits, pulling the sword to hype the Bailey up at the start of a match. They are an incredibly hyped tag team. Him and his partner, Montez Ford, they are incredible. They are showmen. They are entertainers. They rule. The fact that offer hasn't been extended yet, that I know of, is a major fail by the organization. And if anyone listening to this knows Angelo or can get in contact with Angelo, we'd love to have him on the pod. As the only person that watches pro wrestling, it would bring me great joy to watch Grayson have to get through an interview with a pro wrestler.
Well, I'm not an avid watcher, but I'll have you know, I have tickets to the AEW show on Saturday. It's going to make watching the FCC game difficult, but they're going to be there's something going on at NKU.
Yeah,
and
again, I was thinking about going to that. We need to let's connect offline on that one.
I don't know enough about anything to tell you what it is, but it'll be my first true professional wrestling event, and I'm excited. So
it's the best. It is the best live entertainment. It's like going to a rock concert where everybody else knows the words to all the songs except you. It's fantastic.
Great. I can play along. All right, I can have fun with this.
That's outstanding. Well, shit, we lost, but where are your vibes at, Kevin? Vibes okay?
They're okay. We'll be all right. Yeah, I think this team is going to be all right. We said it before, the beginning of the season. You can't judge this team. You can't ride it with the ups and downs. It is a work in progress until Leagues Cup. And the fact that we're tied for third, the team is doing this well, giving up the fewest goals in the league, it's not too bad. How are you feeling?
Vibes good.
Yeah.
It's going to be, you're going to catch me in the moment where I'm going to be mad at what's going on. But overall, when you take a step back, you sober up a little bit, you think about things. The goal was never to stay in first place all year. The goal was to peak at the right time. And there's talent on this team, and the sky is not falling. I know it's fun to think the sky is falling because it's fun to feel. You want to feel something as a fan.
Yes.
You want to feel happy or you want to feel anger. And it's like you want to have one of these two binary emotions of either things are great and this is cool, or things are bullshit. Let's fix it so it can be cool.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just got to live in the middle ground for a little bit. But you know what? That's the fun of having a pro sports team in your town. And you know who doesn't understand that, Kevin?
Oh, who's that?
The city of San Diego. Go fuck yourself, San Diego.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy PostCast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. I also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati and, like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it, if you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to this show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.